An entitled Karen calls me a racist jerk simply because I didn't let her cut in line to refill her drink. And despite the fact that I tried to de-escalate this situation by getting a manager, this entitled Karen followed me around, attacking me for not giving in to her demands. Here's what happened. So my previous job had me working as a food service worker in a bakery. I worked at a certain berry-themed amusement park, and I worked there for about 2 years before quitting a few months back for a job that pays me much better. I liked the job for the most part, and most people were cool, and I really only encountered difficult people during the busy seasons. And my coworkers, with the exception of 2 who hated me, had my back during these encounters. We were also right next to the park security office. The way my location was set up was a little bit weird and specific. It was a bakery with 3 massive display cases separating us as the employees from the customers, as well as 2 registers between the display cases and our soda machine, as well as a little nook off to the side. In this nook, there were 3 machines: a massive coffee pot, a hot chocolate machine that was just a little bit broken and always messy despite my best efforts to clean it up, and a rundown little latte machine. There's a counter right next to this machine where the coffees and all this other stuff would be called out. There was also 2 registers set up outside at this time because it was the busy season, and this was the most efficient way for us as employees to serve the customers. There was almost always 1 or 2 people on the register outside, and this time it was my team lead who really liked me because I trained him. Now this happened on my last day there. This park has a drink program where anybody with an annual pass could pay an extra $10 or so and redeem a fountain drink every 15 minutes. People who weren't pass holders could also get the drink program by buying a souvenir bottle for like $30 that they could just use throughout the day and reactivate it if they came on a different day. Now, a lot of people with this drink program tended to feel like they didn't need to wait in line for their drink redemption, and it was common for them to walk up to the other side of the counter and ask for a refill, and usually they were annoyed but never malicious when I or another coworker told them that they unfortunately had to wait in line for their drinks, since many people in line were also there just for drinks. Well, unfortunately, this didn't fly with this one entitled Karen. This Karen was out for blood, and she must have sensed that I was in a really good mood. It was the last hour and a half of my final shift. I was busy cleaning up a couple of messes that had been made throughout the day by the hot chocolate and latte machines, and was simultaneously talking to my manager and other leads about my plans for the future, about where I pick up my last paycheck and all this other stuff. Well, suddenly I hear somebody unscrewing the lids off of their cups and pushing them towards me. This woman is maybe a little bit taller than me. She had sunglasses and a baseball cap on, and she did not look very pleasant. And when you work at theme parks, you definitely develop a sixth sense for people who are gonna be difficult. This Karen had 2 souvenir bottles on the counter and was holding them out to me. I smiled at her and I told her, "Oh, I'm sorry, you actually have to wait in line to get refills. I know it's inconvenient, but it is our park policy." She scoffed at me and said, "I'm just getting drinks." But I just reiterated that she still had to wait in line, adding that even though the line was really long right now, there were other people in the line who were just also getting drinks. So she disappears, and I assumed that she had gone to wait in the admittedly pretty long line. In that time, I finished cleaning the machines, and I returned to helping customers in line with my other coworkers. About 15 minutes pass, and this lady comes storming back in, cutting the line again and walking up to the register. She then pointed to me and said, "You." Now, it's important to note here that I am a mixed race, but also I do look white, and I usually am perceived as white because, to be completely honest, I didn't go out much at this time, and I've only recently started getting my darker color back. This Karen in question was black, and most of my coworkers are people of color. I'm also autistic with low support needs, and I'm just a little awkward, anxious, and fidgety, and I have trouble making eye contact despite my best efforts. So I'm sure that had something to do with why this lady locked onto me and not my other neurotypical coworkers. She started screaming at me saying, "You are such a racist little jerk, aren't you? You lied to me because I'm black. I wasted all that time in line and your manager told me that you lied to me. You did this because I'm black, didn't you?" Now, just like any other reasonable person, I was very startled. I had been trained for conflicts like this because I was supposed to be a team lead before management changed, and I was usually the person to deal with customers like her for that exact reason. And this was also partially why I quit. Regardless though, this was my first time being cussed at by a customer in a malicious way. I said to her, "I'm sorry about that, but I didn't lie to you. I can get your drinks though." When I said that, she basically threw her cups at me. She said to me, "I want a Coke and a Diet Coke." So I gave her those orders, and I handed her back the cups one by one, telling her which drink was which. She promptly scoffed at me and said, "You didn't put them in the right cups, are you stupid?" And she then pushed the cups back at me. Now, I had had enough at this point, and I asked one of my friends to take over for me as I went to go talk to my lead outside. I went out there and I told him about this entitled Karen, and he informed me that he did not in fact tell her to cut the line. He said that he scanned her drink pass and told her to just wait for one of us behind the counter to help her out, and that we'd get to her as soon as possible. I told him about her insults to me, and just like that, she appeared behind me. This woman had followed me outside and started berating me in front of my lead and hundreds of other customers. She once again called me a racist little jerk and saying that I hated black people and that I was a lazy piece of garbage that didn't know how to do my job, and that I had no right to be standing there doing nothing when the line was out the door. My lead stood up for me, and I finally just told her, "It's my last day. You cannot talk to me like that." And then I walked away from her. She didn't follow me again, and even though I had kept my cool for the entirety of the interaction, it hit me all at once, and I had a small meltdown in the bakery storage room. My coworkers were very understanding, and they let me take my time, and thankfully this woman did not ruin my day. But overall, I definitely do not miss that job. So seriously, if you're gonna be going to a theme park, please be nice to the workers. I can tell you from experience that most parks are single-handedly run by teenagers, and unless it's a big park like the one I currently work at, management is in their early to mid-20s, and corporate definitely does not care about us. So please, for the sake of everybody that you might run into, be nice to us and try to treat us with some respect. Wow, I can't imagine being that entitled that you have to try and be like, "Oh yeah, you didn't serve me my drink because you're racist." It's like, wait a second, that is not at all what's happening here. That is a horrifying accusation to make, and seriously, that entitled Karen should be ashamed of herself. So hopefully, at your new job, you don't have to deal with anything like this ever again, because that sounds like an incredibly stressful situation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I chose to back out of helping out my sister after I heard her making awful comments about me behind my back? Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, for a bit of context, my sister has a bad habit of getting into trouble, and now that she's 18, she's finally planning on moving away. I'm 17 years old, and I'm much bigger than her, which can intimidate people at first glance until I speak to them. Recently, I got my wisdom teeth removed, and a family member I'm low contact with for what she did to me has been watching my little brother while I recover. My brother kept coming to my room, and I've been avoiding this family member, which means avoiding my brother sometimes as well. I still try to hang out with him, but if this family member shows up, I leave after 5 minutes. I keep trying to have one-on-one time with my brother, but the family member keeps showing up. My brother always runs at me full speed and screams my name when he first sees me in the day. And this family member is beloved by everyone, so I've been getting hate for trying to go no contact with her. My mom forces me to talk to her and act friendly, even though one of my aunts who loves the family member told her that I hated her and I wanted her to stop bothering me. When I said this to her years ago, a living nightmare broke loose, and I respect my aunt for her actions. Last year, I didn't go to her birthday party and ended up ruining it because that's all they talked about, and this is while I was home typing an essay. Now on to my sister. My mom drove my sister around constantly when she had a job, but told me that I had to get my driver's license before I get a job. She explained that my sister was a nightmare, and I said that I'm okay with the conditions. My sister has caused issues multiple times, and therapy hasn't helped her. Starting in late middle school, I didn't take care of myself physically, but last year I started working on myself and made a change. But now I'm currently in my senior year, and my sister keeps calling me a hippo when she gets mad. My sister got her license, but my mom refused to buy her a car after some of the things she did. However, my mom openly told me that she would buy me one or let me use her current one. My mom recently found out my sister was drunk driving because she pieced together stories and my sister admitted it. My mom also said I could live in her house when she's out to sea while paying the bills, as long as I don't have parties and only invite a few people with notice while keeping up the maintenance. So basically, she just wants me to clean and cut the grass and I would get a temporary free house. For the past few months, I've been cutting the grass and weed whacking, and I thought I was finally doing better. She's okay with this because between me and my sister, I manage money better and I actually save my money. She told me that my sister spends money the second she gets it into her account, while I barely touch mine. I tried getting my driver's license and I barely failed it, and the lady at the table said that I did very well for a first attempt. I passed the science part with flying colors thanks to a teacher of mine, but failed the hypotheticals and right-of-way questions. I'm waiting for my mom to get back from being overseas to try again after after studying. I plan on going to a culinary arts college in the future, but until I get a job, I'm trying out some side hustles just to build up my savings. I'm almost at the point where I can make money from these side hustles, and I got there quickly because I practiced in between studying for my first driver's test. Now, my sister has a college orientation and says that she's going to be a veterinarian. She called me when I first woke up and asked if I could come with her for 2 days to scare off potential creeps. For reference, she had previously had an Uber driver hit on her, she reported him and got pepper sprayed and tasered afterwards. And she keeps having issues with people bigger than her. After initially saying no, I realized she might get into trouble, and this would be a good opportunity to avoid the family member. So I reluctantly agreed, on the condition that if I see anything sketchy, she will actually have to take my advice. Me and my sister have an okay relationship, and the last time I helped her, she tried to screw me over money-wise, so I just never help her when it comes to money. Well, yesterday my mom asked if I was sure I really wanted to go, and I said I wanted to make sure that she was safe, so I feel obligated as her brother, and it's the last time I might see her. I'm trying to be a better son and brother. I started hanging out with my brother more, even if that family member is around that I don't like, and I'm trying to do more for my mother, and this is something that she's noticed. Well, while packing in my room, I heard my sister talking about me very loudly. She said that I'm a fat loser with no hobbies, no job, and that I can't drive. She also said I'm not around my brother enough. My little brother started crying, and she screamed at him to shut up. She then got mad at the family member for having to watch him when I'm in the house, even though every time I try to watch him alone, she takes him back. After that comment that she made about me, I'm now contemplating not going with her and leaving her to figure it out herself, using the time to hang out with my brother instead since I'm such an awful sibling. So would I be the jerk to back out all of a sudden? What should I do? Honestly, it sounds like your sister is kind of a piece of work, because legitimately, why on earth would she make those kind of comments, especially after you said, sure, I'll help you out? Like, that's so counterintuitive, it's not even funny. Why not just be gracious about the situation and be like, okay, yeah, let's have you come along and help me out? But the fact that she said this behind your back, in my opinion, probably shows exactly how she really feels about you. So to that end, I wouldn't blame you if you decided not to go with her, because this behavior is absolutely unacceptable. I found out that my sister is literally trying to sabotage my family, as she has gone behind my back to spread false rumors and has actively tried to ruin my relationship with my mother-in-law. And now I feel like I'm at a crossroads because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My sister, who for the sake of the story we'll call Amy, used to have a very close relationship with me until I got pregnant 3 years ago. After I told her, she treated me very coldly and avoided me. She stopped inviting me to her home and answering my phone calls. She had been trying to get pregnant for a year at this point, but I never rubbed it in her face, and I even chose not to have a baby shower just to save her feelings. I was also incredibly awkward about celebrating my first baby's birthday, but despite all this was the starting point of something toxic, and I have grieved this relationship for several years now. A couple of months ago, I was shocked to learn that Amy and my mother-in-law were speaking, and that Amy was opening up about some very personal things to her. I was confused by the relationship, but I let it go because they are both adults, and I don't get to dictate other relationships. But my husband was not happy about this. Fast forward to yesterday, and my husband took a slight jab at his mother, saying to her, I don't know why you talked to Amy. She's treated my wife so badly for years and uninvited you to her wedding. But my mother-in-law responded by saying that's not what happened, and I was seriously so shocked by this. Now, 6 years ago, Amy had a destination wedding and stated to my family and all my siblings' partners' family during Christmas lunch that if you can afford to come to my wedding, then you can come. Now, my husband's parents were the only ones wealthy enough to actually go. Before the wedding, my mother-in-law asked for more details, to which Amy called me and asked me, why on earth do you think they are coming to my wedding? How rude and presumptuous of them. But I told her that you did invite them. She continued to deny this and told me that I must fix it because it was her special day. I was so uncomfortable about this, and I told my husband, who had to do the job of subtly saying that the destination wedding will only be Amy's family and her husband's family. And trust me, she was an epic bridezilla, which is definitely a post for another time. But imagine my shock when my mother-in-law tells me that Amy put the blame all on me. I felt sick to my stomach. I mean, if she lied about this, then what else has she said? So I probed some more, and this is what I found out from my mother-in-law. My mother passed away a year ago, and I was pregnant with my second baby at the time, and due to some gross negligence by Amy and my father, they gave me COVID. I had COVID during the wake, and therefore spent most of it in a corner with my mask on. My mother-in-law found Amy at the wake, and they started chatting. During this conversation, Amy told my mother-in-law that I hate my mother-in-law, and that 6 years ago, I told Amy that under no circumstances could my mother-in-law go to Amy's destination wedding, and that Amy must uninvite my mother-in-law. Then, Amy went on to apologize for having to uninvite my mother-in-law. After hearing this crazy version of events, I feel sick. I feel sick, betrayed, and very angry. Not just because it's untrue, but because it was done so maliciously to hurt my mother-in-law and to sabotage our relationship. My mother-in-law was crying for weeks, thinking that her daughter-in-law hated her for the past 14 years. She then kept this a secret for a year, never letting on that she thought that I hated her. I just didn't know what to do with this. Even if I give Amy the benefit of the doubt, and she thought her version of events were true, why would you bring this up 6 years later at your own mother's wake? What would be the point? I know there is a strong aspect of jealousy. I have 2 babies, and I am 7 years younger, and my husband's parents are interesting, lovely, and wealthy. But what would you do if you were me? Would you cut all ties and never speak to Amy again? Or would you approach Amy about her awful behavior? What should I do? First of all, my biggest pet peeve in life, just personally, is when someone makes up stories about me, or when they lie about me just to try and make me look bad. That literally makes my blood boil, and it really upsets me just thinking about it. So I know if that was me, and I can only speak for me, I would definitely be approaching Amy and be like, hey, what are we doing here? Why are you lying about me to turn people against me? Because this kind of behavior is not okay. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it needs to be corrected. Because Amy has gone after your character. She has literally attacked you where it counts. For me, anyone can criticize me about anything, and I probably just won't care. But the second you question my integrity or my character as a person, that's when I go absolutely mental. That's when I personally lose it. Because that's seriously very important to me. So if I was in your shoes, that's the first thing I would be doing. I would be correcting this, and I would be very vocal about it. At this point, I would definitely not care about Amy's feelings, and I would only be worried about trying to correct this as soon as possible. Because what she did is completely inappropriate, and I don't blame you for getting upset in the slightest. My entitled mother has been pushing my boundaries and constantly making me feel uncomfortable about the way things are happening in my life. And now, after we had an argument and I stood up for myself for the first time, my mom is not taking it well, leaving me wondering if I'm the one who's actually in the wrong. Here's what happened. Okay, I just wanted to start off by saying that I think I'm a pretty good child, and my mom always tells me this as well. I'm 18 years old, and I help her out by doing all the chores in the house, and I understand that she is a single woman carrying this family and working too. I go drive to get her groceries and food, and I am going to college soon, and the tuition is completely paid, and she doesn't have to pay a cent out of her pocket. I really hope I've made her proud, and I am always trying to be obedient, and when she gets mad, I just try to swallow it down and get over it. She asks me a lot of things that I sometimes don't agree with or don't want to do, like forcing me into certain clothing, and I do my very best to comply with it even if I don't want to. I do love her a lot, and I love this family of 3 very much. Recently, she has asked me to give her my university portal account login and password so that she can have full access to seeing my finances and refunds that get dispersed into my student account. She is also having a fit since I put the direct deposit from the school under my checking account instead of hers. Now, I hesitated to give this information to her because I wanted just a little bit of privacy with my account. I wanted some independence with my future life and maybe managing my own finances in my own student account. I love my mom, and I do admit that I am still very much a dependent child, but maybe having control over this one account would be nice. I wrote down my username and my password, but I forgot an extra character that I use that covered all the site password requirements. Anyways, long story short, she tried to log in and it didn't work. So I tried several other logins until it finally did work, and now she is blaming me, saying that I purposefully wrote down the wrong password, all because I didn't want her to see my finances. She said that I wanted to keep the refund money for myself or something like that, and that I was trying to manipulate her. Now, it's important to know that I never yell at her. I always am obedient and highly respectful, even when I am mad. But every time she accuses me of lying, it kind of sets off a trigger inside of me. So I did yell at her today, and I cried and got very emotional because this is just such a weird and absurd thing to accuse me of, that I don't want her to see my scholarship money or something like that, even though we went over the exact amount months ago, or that I'm somehow trying to hide things from her. So now she is telling me that I'm not allowed to yell at her, that I must respect her, but I decided to talk back, saying that if she didn't want that, then she should not unreasonably accuse me of those things, and that she needs to accept that I make mistakes sometimes. She is now saying that she can accuse me all she wants, and that I better not yell at her, or else in the future I would be yelling at her when she gets old. She is also afraid that I will be overly independent just like my friends, and she's afraid that they have influenced me in some kind of way, while also being afraid that I might not be one with my family. I always try to push down my emotions and show her that I am an obedient and respectful kid, but now I feel she has pushed a lot of my own boundaries, but then puts it on me by saying I pushed hers by yelling at her. I feel like she feels like she can push all the boundaries that she wants on me, but I cannot do the same when I feel like she is overstepping. So I really need to know, am I in the wrong for yelling and getting mad? I will do my best not to yell ever again, but I just feel like the dam kind of opened here, and I hate being accused of dishonesty. What should I do? For starters, I don't think there's anything wrong with what you did, because the way your mom is treating you is completely inappropriate. And sure, it sounds like you love your mom, but also I really think she's kind of taking advantage of you, and she's also trying to manipulate you. So if I was in your shoes, I would be changing my passwords, but also I would try to realize that you do not have to give her any information that you don't want to give her, because the way she's acting is really manipulative in my opinion, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.